Welcome to my fifth and final video of the channel. Today I'm going to be giving a brief history for each team. As always, if you enjoy the video, please like and subscribe. First up is Arsenal. The club was founded in London in 1886 by a group of cannon makers. They currently play in the Emirates Stadium but played at Highbury for 90 years prior to moving into the Emirates in 2005. They are one of 6 teams in the Premier League to have never been relegated. They have won 47 trophies in their illustrious history, including 13 league titles, 14 FA Cups, and 2 League Cups. They were also the first London team to make it to a Champions League final in 2006. In 1930, they won their first major trophy, an FA Cup, and in 2020 they won their record 14th FA Cup. And in the 2003-2004 season, they became the first ever team to go undefeated in the top flight of English football. A fun fact about them is in 1927 they had the first ever game broadcast on radio. The second team I'm going to cover today is Aston Villa. Based out of Birmingham, they are the 6th oldest club in all of England and in 1982 won the European Cup. They've been playing in the Premier League for 4 seasons now and have won 21 trophies in their history. This includes 7 league titles, 7 FA Cups, and the European Cup, which for those of you who don't know, the European Cup is like the old Champions League with a slightly different format. Their first ever match was against a rugby team, where the first half of the game was played with rugby rules, and the second half was soccer. They ended up winning the match, actually, which is kind of funny. In 1893, they won their first English division title, and in 1897, they played their first game at Villa Park, their home stadium today. Third team to learn about is Bournemouth. They just got promoted back into the Premier League last season, and are one of 4 clubs in the PL, currently who do not have a major trophy. In fact, in 2015 when they got promoted to the Premier League, it was their first time in the top flight of English football. In 2008, the club almost went out of business and were liquidated, but at the last minute were saved by an owner. That season, they hired Eddie Howe, who managed to escape relegation with them in League Two, and brought them all the way up to the Premier League. He's now the manager of Newcastle. They're doing very well. He's a great head coach, obviously. They were initially called Bascombe FC and have played in Vitality Stadium, formerly known as Dean Court. They had to change the name because of sponsorship reasons and more money. So they've been playing in that stadium since 1910. The next London team is Brentford. This is their second year in the PL after playing their first season in the top flight in 74 years last year. In 2016, they decided to create a B team and develop players that way instead of through a traditional academy, which costs half as much to run and has had similar if not better results than the academy would have. Like Bournemouth, they also have no major trophies. In 1942, however, they won the London War Cup with 70,000 spectators. Their current stadium, G-Tech Community Stadium, which is a sponsorship deal with G-Tech, is one of the newest in the Premier League, having been opened in 2020. Next up is Brighton, who are playing their 6th consecutive season in the Premier League this year. Their one major trophy is a Community Shield from 1910. They play at Amex Stadium and are one of the youngest teams in the Premier League. Unfortunately, they do not have much top flight experience, having first played in 1979, and their 2017-2018 Premier League season was their first in 34 years. The one FA Cup final they made it to was in 1983, but they lost to Manchester United 4-0. In fact, in the late 1990s, the team was almost disbanded completely. Fortunately, they've been having a great year because of some great scouting. It looks like they'll stay in the Premier League for quite a while. A kind of weird and unfortunate stat their club captain Lewis Dunk holds is he became the 4th player to score an own goal on his team's Premier League debut. Also, by the way, the reason Ernie Wilson's appearances isn't a specific number is that he played in the 1920s and 30s, and there's not really any reliable sources proving like this is how many games he played, so it's just a general plus number. The next and third London team today is Chelsea. They've played at Stamford Bridge since their formation and are the 2nd youngest team in the Premier League. They have never been relegated from the Premier League and have 34 trophies. This includes 2 Champions Leagues, 2 Europa Leagues, 6 league titles, and a Club World Cup. In 1955, they won their first top-flight title, and in 2003, a Russian oligarch named Roman Abramovich bought the club for £140 million. The previous owner had bought the club for £1. Chelsea spent over £2 billion on transfers while Abramovich owned the team before he sold it last year in 2022, due to the war in Russia. The fourth of 7 London teams in the Premier League that I'm going to talk about is Crystal Palace. Formed in 1861, they are the oldest team in the Premier League, however, they have zero major trophies. However, they did not become a professional team until 1905. Palace have played at Selhurst Park since 1924, that's their home stadium. They have the two highest point totals for a relegated team and have been to two FA Cup finals, both of them they lost to Manchester United. Since the 2013-2014 season when they were promoted to the Premier League, they have finished every season between 40 and 50 points, which is kind of a weird exact number, but curious how they're always in between 10-point range. Next up is Everton, one of the most prevalent clubs in the English top flight. They are currently one of the 6 teams to never be relegated from the PL, but that could change depending on how the season goes. They're currently at the bottom of the table and are fighting relegation. They play at Goodison Park in Liverpool and have 23 major trophies. They have 9 league titles and 5 FA Cups. Everton were the first club on TV and have only been relegated twice in their history, the most recent one in 1951, and have spent the most number of seasons in the English top flight, 120 seasons. They won their first league title in 1891, and Goodison Park was the first English stadium built in 1892. Yet again, another London club, we have Fulham. They are the 4th and final team in the Premier League to not have a major trophy that I'm going to cover today. In 1975, they did make the FA Cup final though, and in 2009 made it to the Europa League final. They obviously lost both since they don't have any major trophies. Their home stadium, Craven Cottage, was built in 1896 and hosted some of the football games in the 1948 Olympics. They are London's oldest professional team. Crystal Palace is the oldest team, but they weren't professional until 1905. And they've been yo-yoing in and out of the Premier League for the last 5 seasons. That's they get relegated, get promoted, get relegated, get promoted. However, this year, they have changed that and they're guaranteed to not get relegated. They also hold on to the record for most games played in one FA Cup season, with 11 games. Typically, there's 6 games with no replays, but they had so many replays they got up to 11 games in one FA Cup. The youngest team in the Premier League this year, we have Leeds United. This is their 3rd year in the Premier League, and they have 9 major trophies, which includes 3 league titles and an FA Cup. Their youngest ever player was Peter Lorimer, who made his debut at 15 years and 289 days old. The football team in Leeds used to be called Leeds City, but they are disbanded because of illegal payments to players, and Leeds United formed in its wake. Leeds won their first league title during the 1968-1969 season, and in 1972 won the FA Cup in front of 100,000 spectators. In the 2000-2001 season, they made it all the way to the Champions League semifinals. They've always played at their home stadium of Elland Road. We're just over halfway through now, and the 11th team I'm going to cover is Leicester City. They are playing their 9th season in the Premier League and play at the King Power Stadium. They have 7 major trophies, including their incredible 2015-2016 Premier League title and an FA Cup. The year they won the league, they had been given 5,000 to 1 odds by bookies to win it all. Leicester hold the record for the biggest away win in Premier League history when they beat Southampton 9-0 in 2019, and have won the second tier of English football a record 7 times. Their only FA Cup win was in 2021, and in 1919, Leicester Fosse was reformed to Leicester City due to financial troubles. That's actually a slight common occurrence with some of these teams, is that in like the early 1900s, the team had to be disbanded, and then they got reformed into another team. Up next, another perennial Premier League team, we have Liverpool. Liverpool have the most trophies in all of England with 66. This includes 19 league titles, 6 Champions Leagues, 1 Club World Cup, and 8 FA Cups. They have played at Anfield since the club's creation, and before Liverpool were a team, Everton played there, their big rivals. In April of 1989, the Hillsborough disaster occurred. Liverpool were playing Nottingham Forest in Sheffield when the standing section was overcrowded and 97 people were crushed and hundreds more were injured. It is a tragic event that is still remembered today. Liverpool hold the record for most points in a season without winning the title, and their top appearance maker, Ian Callaghan, only got 1 yellow and no red cards in his entire career. Another big team coming up is Manchester City. These heavyweights are looking for their 5th Premier League title in 6 years this season. Surprisingly, they are not one of the 6 teams to never be relegated from the Premier League, having played in it for 20 years in a row now. In 2008, the Abu Dhabi United Group bought them and made them part of the City Football Group, which contains three other teams from around the world. City have 28 major trophies, including 8 league titles, 6 FA Cups. They have played at the Etihad since 2003 and hold the record for both the largest and smallest title winning margin. Manchester City became the first Manchester team to win a major trophy when they won the FA Cup in 1904. Although many today know them for their dominance, they have actually never won a Champions League before. Moving on to the other side of Manchester, we have Manchester United. They've played in the PL since its creation and are only second in trophies to Liverpool, having one less than them. They have the most league titles with 20, along with 3 Champions Leagues, 12 FA Cups, a Club World Cup, and many more. When they were created, Man U were initially called Newton Heath, and in 1910 Old Trafford was built. Unfortunately for them, in 1958, 8 players died in a plane crash over Munich. However, in 1986, Sir Alex Ferguson was hired and he led them to 13 league titles and the first ever treble in England. Ferguson, along with Arsene Wenger from Arsenal, became the first managers inducted into the Premier League Hall of Fame this year. Newcastle are next up on the list and they are enjoying their 6th straight season in the Premier League. Last season they were bottom of the table and looking like they were going to be relegated when they hired Bournemouth hero Eddie Howe, who brought them all the way up to 11th place last season and have made them top 4 contenders this year. Newcastle play at St. James Park, which actually hosted some World Cup rugby games in 2021. Newcastle have 12 trophies with 4 league titles and 6 FA Cups. They won their first league title in 1904-1905 season, but Newcastle never actually had a manager until 1929. They had like a committee board and they made all the decisions for every game, which I'm sure went well when they had disagreements on who should start. In 1996, they paid a then record fee of $15 million for Alan Shearer, who went on to become their top scorer and actually holds the record for most goals in one Premier League season, although it's looking like Erling Haaland's going to break that this year. With 5 teams left to cover, we move on to Nottingham Forest. Founded in 1865, they are the oldest professional team in the Premier League. They have 11 trophies, with their only league win coming in the 1977-78 season, but they also have 2 FA Cups and 2 European Cups in their cabinet. Nottingham are one of 8 teams to win back-to-back European trophies and one of 5 English teams to win the title the year after they got promoted. Nottingham play at the City Ground and are playing in the Premier League for the first time since 1999, when they were bottom of the table. Brian Clough is their most successful manager. He coached them from 1975 to 1993, so he oversaw that Premier League title win, both European Cups, and a lot of other trophies. Southampton are the next team to learn about. Their single trophy is an FA Cup that they won in 1976. Southampton are currently playing their 11th straight season in the Premier League, but it could be their last as they are desperately fighting to escape relegation and are currently in last place. In 1904, they were the first British team to tour South America, and in 1966 they won their first promotion to the First Division. In 2009, Southampton was bought out of administration, but had a lot of work to do to get back into the Championship. In the 2010-2011 season, Southampton, along with Brighton, won promotion into the Championship. Southampton have unfortunately been on the losing side of both the biggest home and biggest away wins in Premier League history, 9-0 to Leicester and 9-0 to Manchester United. 3 teams left, and our second to last London team, Tottenham Hotspur. They are the 6th team to never be relegated from the Premier League and have 23 trophies to their name. They have 2 league titles, 8 FA Cups, and 4 League Cups. Tottenham were the first British team to win a European trophy, and in 1960 became the first team to win the League and FA Cup in the same year. In 2019, Tottenham Hotspur Stadium was built for $1 billion. Tottenham won their first league title in 1950 and first FA Cup in 1901. The record goal scorer, Harry Kane, is still playing, so his tally will keep increasing, and that's why it just says 270 plus. West Ham are in their 11th straight Premier League season and are one of 8 teams to never play in the 3rd Division of England. They hold the record for most points by a relegated team in a 38-game season. There are a couple teams that have more points than them, but that was a 42-game season, so they had 4 more games to get more points in. All 3 of their trophies are FA Cups, and they won their first FA Cup in 1964. Their home stadium, London Stadium, was built for the Olympics, and West Ham moved into it in 2016. London Stadium doubled the capacity of their old stadium. West Ham were originally called the Thames Ironworks but changed their name to West Ham in 1900. Finally, we have our last team, Wolverhampton Wanderers, also called Wolves. This is their 5th year in the Premier League and they've won 11 trophies, including 3 leagues and 4 FA Cups. They won their first FA Cup in 1893. They've played at Molineux, their home stadium, for pretty much their entire existence. Wolves were the first team to win the top 4 levels of English football and are the only team to score 100 goals in English leagues in 4 straight seasons. In the 1971-1972 season, they made it to the final of the first ever UEFA Cup, which is now the Europa League, similar to how the European Cup and Champions League are like the same thing, but European Cup's the older version. The UEFA Cup's the older version of the Europa League. And in 1986, Wolves signed their record goal scorer Steve Bull. Alright, this has been a brief history of all 20 Premier League teams. I hope you liked the video and don't forget to like and subscribe. Bye!